I'm a totally normal mum. I'm grocery shopping, I'm playing with my child. But I would say that our marriage is pretty different to most other marriages.
Abby is a writer and mother of a 5-year-old. Her husband of 10 years, Liam, is a 33-year-old lecturer.
Abby might decide that after picking up our son from school and then coming home and we all make dinner together, instead of doing that, maybe she might go out on a date. I love Abby having these beautiful partners, and I'm friends with all of her partners as well.
Abby is at the centre of a discreet community of women around the country, challenging the rules of I do.
We have all been raised to think, you know, a marriage is about sexual fidelity, and that anything that isn't that is not as valid, or there's some kind of deceit, or it's sinful.
It's not as salacious as some people might actually think it is. It's just regular people who have decided to have a different style of relationship.
These are people who are doctors, teachers, medical professionals, lawyers. People were afraid to show their faces because it could impact their work, it could impact their family relationships, it could impact their friendships.
But Abby and Liam are working to shift the stigma. They're putting on these private conversation nights for others interested in non-monogamy.
I have 2 children. Initially, I had a lot of guilt and shame. We wouldn't shame fathers who are opening up their marriage.
It's the idea that if a mother is prioritising anything other than her child, she's being selfish.
Mothers and women have always been judged for doing things for themselves or that aren't solely connected to their children.
People worry that for some reason, if you have a different kind of relationship structure, that's going to affect your children.
Is there any truth in that?
No, it just depends on how you parent.
It shouldn't really affect the child as long as you're making sure that whoever in their life is safe and trusted.
I don't talk about my intimate life with our child. This isn't something that's happening all of the time, every day, every week, every night. Of course, my child always comes first. It's not about having a disrespect for family unit.
One of the biggest misconceptions is that it's this free-for-all. You know, do all these wild and naughty and adventurous things.
We want it to be just about a loving connection with another person. We don't do one-night stands.
Brooke, that's not her real name, and her husband have 1 child together.
Often we'll only have one partner outside of our partnership, and sometimes none. There's no rule book.
If it's not just about wanting to have more sex outside of your marriage, what is it about?
I think non-monogamy is about a mindset. It's taken a long time for people to be brave enough to speak about it. The queer community, they've really paved the way for the conversations that we are having now. Yeah. To be able to challenge some of these norms and what a good marriage looks like or what a proper marriage looks like.
There aren't any official statistics on exactly how many Australians are practicing non-monogamy. But in a recent poll of 50,000 Australians, 1.4% admitted they were in an open relationship. The figure among 40 to 49-year-olds was twice as high as for those aged 18 to 29.
It can be really hard to tell your partner, you know, I've found an attraction for somebody else.
You really have to kind of confront your own ego. Like, if Abby's on a date, for example, you know, potentially I could feel really threatened. They are tricky conversations, and it requires just extensive amounts of communication.
Jealousy comes up in non-monogamy, jealousy comes up in monogamy. And I like to talk about compersion because most people have never even heard of the word. Compersion is this feeling that is, some put it as the opposite of jealousy. It's the feeling of excitement or attraction or joy that you might feel for your partner's independence or maybe their connection with another person.
There's this stereotype that men are the ones that instigate or push for open marriages. Is that accurate?
It's often women who are more open-minded to the idea of non-monogamy and then sort of try and spark the conversation with their husband.
That was the case for this young woman who we'll call Sarah.
Is there a reason why you don't want to show your face tonight?
Yeah, because we haven't had this conversation with certain family members yet.
Sarah's been married for a number of years. She's planning to have kids and has recently opened up her marriage.
It took a year of constructive conversation. It was quite scary.
Sarah's husband says for them, it's about breaking down barriers and misconceptions.
One major one when I first heard about non-monogamy was that there was something fundamentally wrong with the relationship.
I think there will be this misconception that this is a cult, and it's definitely not.
With all respect, you do fit the stereotype of the cult leader.
The long hair.
Definitely not a cult leader. Definitely not.
What would you say to people who are really all about protecting the sanctity of marriage?
You know, we're not trying to convert Australia to all be non-monogamous. And ultimately, it comes down to me, to the core question of, would our son be proud of our choices? Oh, God, I just got really emotional. Excuse me. Woo.
Where does that emotion come from now? When you started talking about your son?
Well, I think it's because I care so much. And we want him to be proud of the decisions that we've made and the integrity and the honesty in which we live our lives. I've heard in the past things like, you know, non-monogamous people shouldn't be allowed to be parents. We hope that by allowing people to see that we're just normal people, we do the normal things, we have the normal jobs, you know, that we can all happily coexist together and sometimes have these really beautiful conversations where we can maybe challenge each other's belief systems.
My hope is that the broader community can see that there are so many different relationship options and ways of being, and that people can have difficult conversations with their partners and husbands, wives, and less of following the rule book and more of following our hearts.
Ooh, very interesting.
Holy
I know.
Would you do it?
I'm very excited to pitch this to my girlfriend.
I'm so...
tonight when I go home. I mean, it was on the project. It's fine. It's a normal story.
Good luck with that, Simon.